Hey, shalom, shalom. It's the brother Lahab, back with another late night thoughts, in transit. First and foremost, before I get started, I want to thank Bahasham, Yahawashi for putting the spirit on me to push the button. I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahawah, Bahasham, Yahawashi, Bahasham, Rakakadash. I want to give double honors to the apostles and the elders of GMS who teach and rule well, who taught me this truth. Salutation, brothers and sisters that are out there listening and learning, fighting this good fight of faith. And salutation to my fellow brethren that are pushing this word in all truth and sincerity. To you all, I want to say shalom. I know we pray that this in transit late night thoughts lesson be edifying to the elect. So I finished watching the first episode of season 7, Black Mirror season 7, excuse me. Episode 1, and it was good, but as we're commanded to do, watchmen. So I was watching it as although it was entertaining, it's more the spiritual message behind it, and that's what as watchmen we're commanded to do, as it says in Ezekiel 3:17, Ezekiel, I believe that's 33. Isaiah 62 speaks about being a watchman. He that make mention of the Lord keep not silence. Ezekiel talks about, I have made you a watchman over my people, roughly paraphrasing. So, this will be a little bit of a movie review, or not review, but an episode review, I guess. It was basically like an hour long, so it was almost like a short movie. But this devil, these elites are really, getting people used to the idea of linking themselves with technology by putting it in this, in these movies, in these shows, in these cartoons, having, people get used to using, palm pay and facial recognition and, all of this, digitization of society, that's happening right before our very eyes, man. So, not to, tell too much of the story, but, basically in the show, matter of fact, I'm gonna take this right. It was a couple, that were married, and they would spend a lot of time together. They both worked, and the wife was a teacher, and she ended up having some kind of like a cancer or something, right? And in order to and she got sent to the hospital, and the husband, her husband, had a choice to make, because they were saying she was never going to come out of consciousness. And here comes the devil, speaking about this new technology that they have, basically Esau playing God and doing miracles on the left hand side. So they had it basically it was basically a brain C-hip, and they had signals that they whoever took this C-hip, brain C-hip, they had to be within a certain radius. Basically, it was basically like a phone. When you watch the whole episode, it was basically the person their brain basically was like a cell phone, to put it as simply as I can put it. So like when they started, they only had a few towers or whatever, so they can only stay within their city that they lived in. And there was a place that they like to travel for their anniversaries or whatever. So, and if they went outside of those towers, the zone, so to speak, they would lose a signal, just like a phone. So she would basically deactivate or go unconscious, just like your phone would stop working if you go outside of the zone, those towers, and the signal. You know, if you go past, you know, like I just came from out of the country, and I didn't have no service over there because, you know, I'm not within the country that has the service that I have. You know what I mean? So it was, you know, pretty much as simple as that. You know what I mean? That's but the person would be the phone, so to speak. So so as the show goes on, you know, in the scripture that, you know, kept popping into my head was you know, one, never trust thine enemy, and you know, woe to you that go down to Egypt for help. Isaiah 30 popped up in my head. And then the grievous sore, you know, that the people that receive the sea hip, that popped in my head. You know, now she didn't receive a sore in that sense, but as the show progressed, the devil, being the devil, started charging more money for these new expansions that they had, right? So instead of just being in the confines of that city limit that they had, they built more towers, and with the more expansion came an expansion of money that they had to pay, because it was already a monthly fee that they had to pay to basically keep her online. Basically, it was like a fucking cell phone bill. It was like $300 a month or some shit like that. It was fucking ridiculous. But that was the price to keep her, you know, online, so to speak, right? Keep her functioning and all that shit. So then they had to pay an extra $200 or something in order to be able to go outside of the state, because now they have more towers around the country, and they would, you know, basically be able to travel across the country and everything. So, you know, long story short, towards the end of the show, they had, and this is the, you know, the main part I wanted to bring out, they had a like a deluxe program, which was even more money. It was like $1,000 on top of it was like $1,500 a month for everything, some shit like that. But they were able to control the emotions of the person via an app. So like they had like a thing that said like euphoria, so you could push it all the way up, happiness, push it all the way up, you know, and things like that. And they showed a scene where they pushed like her happiness all the way to the max, the wife, and you know, there was like this karaoke going on, and it was these bad, you know, terrible singers up there. You know, karaoke niggas really usually can't sing for shit, but her fucking shit was so amplified that she thought in her head it actually sounded like the actual artist that sung the song. Like what's that song? Loving you is easy cause you're beautiful. Do, 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 do. You know? They were singing that song. But in her mind, it sounded just like the actual, like she was listening to it on her fucking phone or something, like the actual song. You know? And these are these left-handed miracles that these devils are going to come with, man. You know? They're going to lie and deceive the people into believing that that sea-hip is really a good thing. You know what the scripture says? Even Satan turneth himself into a angel of light. You know, excuse me, because at first, you know, the husband was super excited. You know, his wife is back. You know, she's basically not dead. You know, and it seemed sweet. You know, as the scriptures say, the words of his mouth were sweet, smoother than butter, but war was in his heart, man. So, because of course they used Eve, you know, to portray it, which, you know, at least an Eve-looking person. I'll just say it that way. If your brothers and sisters watch, you know what I'm talking about. But you know, they used the Eve's the serpent's you know, guard dog to portray it, you know, a end-up woman. And you know, everything seemed good at first, you know, and as the scripture that came to my mind was, who's gonna pity a charmer that's bitten by a serpent, man, in Sirach 12, you know, because what happened was everything was all good, and then, as I was saying, the expansion kept happening because it was a trial. It was a new technology, blah blah blah. So as time went on, the company that they got the brain sea-hip from, you know, expanded, and so did the price of everything, which was, it was completely, they were, you know, unaffordable. It was ridiculous, and it was all predicated on his wife basically being normal. You know what I'm saying? Just for the basic necessity of just living, he had to pay a fee, you know. And you know, what's that scripture when it talks about him that I'm trying to think of it, but you know, the ones that stay upon Egypt is like leaning upon a reed, and when you lean your hand upon it, it'll pierce your hand, roughly paraphrasing. That's how it is, like trusting in Egypt, roughly. You know, I'm thinking of how it goes, but you know, basically, you know, woe unto them that go down to Egypt for help, man. You know, because Satan's always gonna do what Satan does, man. You know, the devil is always gonna do what the devil does, man. And that showed it, man. Because in the end, you know, when you watch it, if you know, I encourage brothers and sisters to watch it. Man, it was, I say it was probably better that she went when she was supposed to go, because that was the Lord's will in the first place. So they pretty much prolonged it and suffered for it, because you know that's you know, that's unnatural, man. You know what I mean? You're not supposed to be making any incisions in your flesh, and damn sure not supposed to be linking, you know, yourself with some fucking technology, and you know, you got a outside source able to control, you know, what you do and stuff like that. And the craziest thing was, like, why I said it was like she was a phone, was that they were running commercials through her. That was the crazy shit. She would be talking, and they would mention something, and then she would start speaking like a fucking like a commercial. You know, if you know, if you she would see like a kid with some ugly shoes, and she'd be like, oh, there's a sale on, you know, Nikes for $125. Sign up at, you know, Nike.com, and she would just like say the shit. It was a good watch, man. You know, but that's that predictive programming, man. They're putting it in people's faces, getting people desensitized to seeing and hearing, you know, this linking of man with machine, man. You know, this fourth industrial revolution, man. You know, and what they showed in that show is the dependence on the technology. And that's what the people that trust in, that go down to Egypt for help and trust in oppression, that's what it will be. Because they'll be able to turn your C-hip off and on whenever they feel like it. They can control, you know, your they can monitor you, track and trace you, your social credit score, your carbon footprint, all that shit, man. And if you don't comply, they can, you know, turn off your funding, and you know, which is making perfect sense that that's where it's going, because of the loss of jobs and the increase of prices. So you have two extremes. Nobody's making any money, and if they are, they got to work 2 and 3, possibly 4 jobs just to try to keep their head above water. And Trump's putting all these tariffs on every damn body, so it's raising the prices even more. And he doesn't give a fuck, because he's just telling people, the American citizens, that this is a transitional period. So basically, suck it up, buttercup. You know, I don't give a fuck. Deal with it. You know, that's what he's saying. And Elon is, you know, been talking about universal basic income. So everything's lining up, man. Everything's lining up, and they want people to be fully dependent on them so that they can do whatever they want, you know, so that the devil can just have full control and reign over the whole entire inhabited population on the planet Earth, man. You know, but Yahawah Yahawashi aren't going to allow that to happen, man. Because as the scriptures say, you know, when they're about to fill their belly, you know, then sudden destruction shall come upon, so rain upon them, man, while they're eating. So, you know, and you know, and the scriptures talk about they shall be in straits, the wicked, you know, they're going to be in positions of difficulty as they're trying to do their thing, because as they're trying to achieve this NWO, they're being exposed left and right all day, every day. Even their own tongue is falling upon themselves. There's constantly insiders coming out telling their plans and sharing it on social media. People are sharing it, talking about it openly. You know, people talking about we're in the end times, people talking about World War III. These are things that you never heard before, you know, 6, 7, 8, 10 years ago. People openly just talking about things like that. That's how we know that we're in the end, man. And this devil's time is almost up, man, you know. So, you know, that's pretty much it. You know, Revelation 13 and 14, and 16 says, they shall cause all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a charagma in their right hand or in their forehead, man. And that none shall buy or sell save he that had the charagma. And that's the time that we're entering into. The infrastructure is already here. Like I said, they got the palm pay. They got the facial recognition at the airports. You know, Slovakia. Russia, I seen an article the other day. Russia's supposed to implement the whole nationwide facial payment system. So it's here, man. It's here. You know, we're just waiting for it to be rolled out and you know, and made mandatory for everybody to get it, man. That's why, you know, a possible as the brother from New York, Amawan Gabar, the elder, had mentioned about a blackout, man, and it makes perfect sense, man. The dollar is collapsing, you know, all these nations are going digital, you know. Biden had signed the digital assets executive order back in, like, I think it was 2022. So everything's ready to go. They just need the right crisis, you know, to really push for it, you know, forward, and saying that this is the only way, blah, 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 whatever, however they're going to say it. The same way that they, you know, a similar way that they did with the CV, man. They got to, problem, reaction, solution, man, So, look out for it, but I just wanted to, mention that movie because it's interesting how these devils do their predictive programming and, this fourth industrial revolution that they're pushing forward and how they're putting it in the minds of the people that is, not that, big of a deal, or getting people used to seeing it, conditioning the people, acclimating the people to the idea of being linked with technology, having technology inside of them. That's what all these different movies have been showing. I mentioned, Cassandra on Netflix. It was basically the lady, it was pretty much the same idea. The lady had a terminal illness. She was gonna die, and her husband had an option to basically take her conscious out of her body and upload it into a fucking robot, and put a fucking TV screen with her face on it, and she would basically be, her soul would be inside the robot, man. So all this weirdo fucking shit that Esau is doing, but it's gonna be to no avail, man. And what we sincere brothers, and you few sisters, man, we're gonna trust in Yahawashi, man. The Lord said He have kept 7,000 men, which is a complete number of men that would not bend the knee to Baal, man, to these damn devils, man. The ones that stand so stiffly for the name of the Lord, Yahawashi, man. And Lord's will, we're of that number, man. Lord's will, we are able to endure to the end, because it says, he that endures to the end, the same shall be saved, man. Because these devils are going to come with it. Revelation 12:12, the devil's going to come down with great wrath, because he knows that he have but a short time. And as we get closer and closer to the end of this devil's rule, they're going to continue to lash out. And eventually they're just going to say, fuck it. Just go. We got to go, because it can't keep on kicking the can down the road, man. They gotta make a move, man, because their time is short. And when they do, they're going to come down with great wrath, man. And that's when Yahawah's going to send Yahawashi and the angels to come fuck these devils up and protect the elect, man. And Lord's will, we're of that precious number, man. So that's pretty much it. I hope and pray that this lesson was edifying to the elect. In closing, I want to thank Yahawashi once again for putting the spirit on me to push the button. I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahawah, Bahasham, Yahawashi, Bahasham Rakakadash. I want to give double honor to the apostles and the elders of GMS who teach and rule well, who taught me His truth. Salutation, you brothers and sisters that are out to listen and learning, fighting this good fight of faith. Keep fighting, keep striving, keep pushing. We're almost out of this bitch. And salutation, my fellow brethren that are pushing this word in all truth and sincerity. To you all, I want to say shalom, say abba ball, and kwam yasharala. Hey, shalom. To the next one.